Hello and welcome to Hacking Pixels. Hacking Pixels covers some of the hottest cybersecurity news from around the internet, along with a twist of retro video game nostalgia. Hacking Pixels is brought to you by Actionable Security, securing small businesses with actionable insights. Actionable Security specializes in cybersecurity services tailored for small businesses such as risk assessments, email hardening, virtual chief information security officer advisory, and a lot more. Go to actionablesec.com for more information. Welcome to episode 11. I'm your host, Frank Morano, founder of Actionable Security. Today we're going to talk about new M5 Apple devices, why annual patching is not enough, when your ride becomes a cybersecurity risk, and malicious Chrome extensions, followed by our retro game of the month. But first, here's some security tips from Actionable Security to better secure your Microsoft 365 environment.
Want to keep the baddies out of your Microsoft 365 email? It's time to suit up your digital defenses with some clever, no-nonsense strategies. Start by enforcing multi-factor authentication with number matching. Picture a high-tech bouncer at the door ensuring only the true VIPs gain entry. Then boost your shield with advanced threat protection like Microsoft Defender for Office 365 with safe links and safe attachments, or opt for an email security gateway like Mimecast to zap phishing scams before they can cause trouble. Tighten things up further by implementing conditional access policies that roll out the red carpet only for users in approved locations on secure devices. Limit global administrator accounts to a trusted few. After all, not everyone should hold the master key to your digital kingdom. Meanwhile, refine your sharing settings in Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint to keep your secrets safe, and remind your team that every flashy email might hide a trap instead of a ticket to fortune. Finally, let Actionable Security step in with a comprehensive Microsoft 365 hardening assessment to keep your digital fortress secure, robust, and always one step ahead of cyber villains.
Email is still the number one way attackers break in. From phishing to spoofing, weak Microsoft 365 configurations are exploited every single day. Besides the few tips that we just gave, we offer a Microsoft 365 security assessment that goes deeper. Our security assessment doesn't just stop at Exchange. It digs into Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, Intune, and a lot more to uncover hidden risks before the attackers do. This is really the smartest way to reduce your chances of a costly business email compromise. Because I believe so strongly in the impact of these assessments, I'm offering 50% off for Hacking Pixels listeners. Don't wait until you're the next headline. Reach out to Actionable Security today, and let's lock down your Microsoft 365 environment before the attackers get their shot. Every few episodes, I like to take a little time and talk about being a small business startup and things that I've learned which might help others along the way. Actionable Security has been running almost a year now, and I've found that customer acquisition is the biggest challenge. It takes time, patience, and a whole lot of dedication to build a brand that actually sticks. So, what seems to be working for me so far that might help you with your business? The number one thing is really making more friends. They open doors, bring in skills you don't have, and can turn that next cup of coffee into a new opportunity. Boosting LinkedIn posts for visibility seems to be working, but skipping Google, Facebook, LinkedIn ads, at this point, it just seems like that's throwing money out the window. Press releases seem to matter, especially when you have something important to say. They drive traffic and credibility. Creating content like our blog, Actionable Insights, or podcasts like the Hacking Pixels show shows thought leadership and keeps traffic flowing back to your site. Optimizing for SEO and AI. It's not just about search engines anymore. It's about showing up in ChatGPT's good graces too. Finding your niche. What do your clients really need? Where's the competition thin? That's your sweet spot. Going local, Google Business Profile and Bing Places listing gives you presence where it counts. And lastly, sell yourself as much as your service. Products can be copied. You're the reason clients choose to buy. Those are just some strategies I found effective. For those who've cracked the code, what strategies have helped you grow? I'm excited that we're now squeezing in some tech news into the podcast with our new tech brief. Just a few headlines that caught my eye. New M5 powered Apple devices, another spec bump from Apple. The new iPad Pro, MacBook Pro, and Vision Pro are all a little faster thanks to the new M5 chip inside. These updates used to be exciting, but Apple just seems to be phoning it in lately. I'm actually surprised they even bothered with the Vision Pro update, which I'm sure will make the one or two people actually wanting one very happy. What I could really use is a new Apple TV, which hasn't been updated since 2022. Throw M5 in one of them, and you'll have a competitor for Nintendo and Sony. Also, Samsung announces the Galaxy XR. For some reason, Samsung thought it was a good idea to clone the Vision Pro. At least it's about half the price, so maybe they'll sell four of them instead of one or two. This looks like a real competitor, but really, is there a market for this? Apple and Samsung really should just focus on bringing us AR glasses before Meta dominates the market. Next story is Xbox developer kits are getting a big price hike. Xbox, it seems like they're raising prices on everything from hardware to Game Pass and now developer kits. With their exclusives like Halo going to the PS5 and the next generation hardware rumored to essentially be a expensive PC, I'm not sure developers are going to want to even make games for the platform anymore. Lastly, Tesla has a new range of affordable electric cars. Tesla has a new Model 3 priced at $37K, which I think is more than the 2019 Model 3 I had. There were some things I liked about my Model 3, like its sound system, autopilot, and one pedal driving. And then there were things that I didn't like they didn't tell you about the degrading batteries or the poor range in the winter. Still, if you're in the market for EV, the Model 3 offers a lot of value, especially in the used market where you could find a lightly used model 1 or 2 years old for around 20K. It's time to cover the latest AI headlines. We're going to continue our little experiment with AI, talking about AI, and give Google Notebook LM another crack at telling us about the latest AI headlines.
Okay, this is the brief on some major recent moves in AI development and security. So we're seeing some huge things. AI making coding way easier, the first really smart browser, and yeah, a pretty scary new security threat. Let's get right into it. First off, Google's teasing vibe coding for video games. By year end, via Google AI Studio, you can basically just tell the AI what simple game you want. No complex code like C++ or C#, just natural language. They're aiming for the next 100 million developers, letting folks build basic games for friends. Pretty cool, right? But with power comes risk. Second, researchers found CoFish, a nasty phishing trick using Microsoft's own Copilot Studio agents. This is serious, because fake login requests come from real, trusted Microsoft addresses. They look legit, tricking folks, especially app admins, into giving up vital session tokens, the keys keeping you logged in, maybe even bypassing multiple factor authentication. Oof. And finally, OpenAI launched its AI browser, ChatGPT Atlas. It's on Mac now, Windows Mobile coming. The big deal? An agent mode for paid users. This browser doesn't just search, it can do complex stuff for you, like booking things or editing docs all on its own. Like a constant AI helper taking action. So yeah, from democratized game creation to autonomous browsers and critical AI security risks, things are moving really fast, showing both the huge upsides and the real dangers.
I feel like that was the best one yet. I might be out of a job soon. Some interesting AI news this month: Copilot Studio agents being exploited, Google saying that everyone is going to be able to vibe code video games by the end of the year, and free AI training for all. The one headline I'd like to take a little time to delve into is OpenAI's new Atlas browser. It's interesting and a little frightening. It's potentially a privacy and security risk. In order for it to fulfill all of its promises, you need to give it a lot of access. Think search logs, pages visited, prompts and follow up questions, browsing memories, across sessions, and other things that any good privacy focused browser doesn't do. There's also a concern of prompt injection, which may allow it to open private accounts, exfiltrate sensitive data, execute unintended actions on your behalf. AI browsers like Atlas are powerful, but not necessarily secure. If you're curious enough to try one, keep these precautions in mind. Don't give it access to private data like keychains or credentials. Avoid loading untrusted content. Malicious prompts can hide even on trusted sites. Review your security settings to understand what data is being sent, stored, and used. And stay skeptical of convenience features that trade privacy for automation. Remember, the new and shiny tech doesn't always mean secure. Anyway, let's get back to the world of cybersecurity. Our first story, Windows SMB vulnerability exploited. Why annual patching isn't enough. A high severity flaw in Microsoft's Windows SMB client was patched during the June 2025 Patch Tuesday and is now being actively exploited in the wild. Basically, attackers are exploiting these flaws, which is exposing organizations that have an annual patching cadence. As we know, patching must be continuous, risk-based, and paired with layered defenses. For those that don't know, SMB is a core Windows protocol used for file and printing sharing. It has a long history of high-profile exploits. Anyone remember WannaCry? And attackers continue to weaponize SMB because it makes lateral movement inside the network easy. The bigger picture here is really that organizations are not patching often enough. This patch was released months ago, yet organizations are still being caught off guard. Attackers move fast and exploits spread quickly. Patching delays turn known vulnerabilities into guaranteed entry points. A strong vulnerability management program should really go beyond apply patches when you can. So, what should it include? It should include roles and responsibilities, clear ownership across IT, security, and leadership. It should also include asset inventory and classification. Know what you have, where it lives, and how critical it is. I said it before and I'll say it again, you can't protect what you don't know about. Also, vulnerability identification, continuous scanning of endpoints, servers, and cloud assets. Don't wait until you hear about a vulnerability in the news. Be proactive. Vulnerability assessment and prioritization. Rank the vulnerabilities by severity, exploitability, business impact to help figure out what to patch first. Remediation and mitigation. Apply the patches quickly. Use compensating controls when patching isn't possible. Sometimes your business needs that Windows 2003 server. Exceptions and risk acceptance. Sometimes there's reasons why you can't patch. Document them and formally approve any type of exceptions. Reporting and metrics. Track the time to patch, remediation rates, and exposure windows to help get better at patching. And then lastly, policy review and compliance. Regularly update your policies to align with evolving threats and regulations. The threat landscape is continually evolving, and you should too. Remember that patching isn't optional, and it's not occasional either. Threat actors thrive on organizations that delay. Solid vulnerability management program will help keep you out of those headlines. Next up, bring your own car when your ride becomes a cybersecurity risk. I love cars from a 2017 Porsche 911 to a 2026 Toyota GR Corolla. But here's the question, are they a hidden threat? Modern connected vehicles have introduced a new attack surface for businesses. Vulnerabilities in your car could potentially allow a threat actor to compromise it and jump devices to get to your enterprise network. Cars with apps, Bluetooth, Wi Fi, and cloud integrations are essentially computers on wheels. Syncing work calendars, joining calls via the in car systems, or plugging in devices to charge could all be attack vectors. Cars often retain sync data even after the devices are disconnected. Compromised mobile devices can spread malicious code via USB or Bluetooth. Connected car apps might have weak authentication, creating new entry points for attackers. And sensitive corporate data could be exposed if a car is sold, rented, or hacked. So, what do? You want to treat cars like endpoints. Organizations should recognize connected vehicles as part of their attack surfaces. And then you want to create some policies around it. Most companies have BYOD policies, but few have BYOC policies. And that's a blind spot. And then training your employees, right? Employees should be trained not to sync sensitive work data with personal or rental cars. Basically, cars are unmanaged devices. If you wouldn't let an employee's personal laptop connect to your network without controls, why ignore the data hungry computer they drive to work every day? As cars integrate with more digital systems, payments, AI co pilots, smart city infrastructure, the risk will only expand. You might be better off just sticking with that 1991 Acura NSX, which came out before Bluetooth was invented. Finally, think twice before installing that Chrome extension. 131 malicious clones hijack WhatsApp. Basically, 131 malicious Chrome extensions have been discovered impersonating legitimate WhatsApp tools. Many of these clones are promoted through misleading ads, fake reviews, and SEO optimized listings that could trick a user into believing they're legitimate. Once installed, these extensions hijack active WhatsApp sessions, scrape sensitive data, and potentially redirect traffic to phishing sites. Your personal conversations, credentials, and more are at risk. So, what do you do to reduce that risk? You want to be careful of clones. Extensions that mimic popular apps like WhatsApp are a prime target for attackers. You also want to check the source, always verify the developer's identity, reviews, and official website before installing. You want to look at permissions as well. If an extension requests excessive access, treat it as a red flag. And then do some regular auditing, review the installed extensions, and remove anything that you don't actively use. And then lastly, have a security mindset. Browser extensions are software. Installing them should be treated with the same caution as downloading apps and programs. Extensions can be both productivity boosters and attack vectors. Stick to official app integrations. Use endpoint security tools that could detect malicious browser activity, and most of all, educate teams about the risks of too good to be true extensions. Let's take a break from the serious stuff and talk about something a bit more nostalgic. Our feature retro game this month is another 80s beat 'em up, Golden Axe for the Sega Genesis. Golden Axe was released in 1989 and developed by Sega for arcades and ported to the Sega Genesis. It was used in the early days of the console to advertise the system's power over the then main rival Nintendo Entertainment System. Players controlled one of three warriors who must free a fantasy land from the rule of the evil Death Adder, who wielded the legendary Golden Axe. Not to be confused with the axe from Legendary Axe for the TurboGrafx 16, game that we'll get to one day. Anyway, Golden Axe was essentially Double Dragon meets Conan the Barbarian. The Genesis version remained largely faithful to the arcade game, adding extra level, dual mode, along with a new ending. Flux Magazine rated Golden Axe 70th in their top 100 video games, and Game Master ranked the Genesis version 100 on their top 100 games of all time. Interestingly, several of the yells and screams in the game's original arcade version were lifted directly from movies like Rambo First Blood, American Werewolf in London, and Conan the Destroyer. Some of those yells even remain in the Genesis version. As I mentioned before, I didn't have a Sega Genesis when I was a kid, so I mostly played Golden Axe at my cousin's or at the arcade. With games like Sonic the Hedgehog, Ghouls and Ghosts, and now Golden Axe, you would have thought that I would have traded in my trusty Turbo graphics for a Genesis, but for some reason I didn't. Anyway, Golden Axe was always a favorite since I loved beat 'em up games that could be played with two players, and really liked the 80s Conan the Barbarian movie and Conan the Barbarian Marvel comic at the time, so it was the perfect mix. I usually played with the broadsword wielding barbarian axe battler to stick with that Conan feel, and always loved spending time with friends attempting to defeat Death Adder. I was also amazed how close Golden Axe looked to the arcade version. Sure, the sprites were a little smaller and there were less details, but the core game was there and it really looked great. And at the time, it was just amazing to play something that was in the arcades at home that actually looked like an arcade game. Take a look at Street Fighter for the NES for a good example of what home ports of arcade games looked like back in the day. Golden Axe was pretty popular and saw multiple ports to the Commodore 64, Amiga, Sega Master System, and even iOS and Android. Golden Axe can also be found on the 2019 Sega Genesis Mini and Nintendo Switch Online, which is probably the easiest way to play it. In 2023, Sega announced a new 3D version of Golden Axe coming to modern systems, but have been remained silent pretty much ever since. Maybe one day soon we'll get an update. I'd love to revisit it, and it's Conan the Barbarian style world again. That's all, folks. Thanks for listening. Join us next month. Same bat time, same bat channel. And remember, this episode of Hacking Pixels is brought to you by Actionable Security, your trusted partner in safeguarding small businesses. With decades of experience, Actionable Security offers tailored cybersecurity services such as risk assessments, email hardening, and virtual chief information security officer advisory. For more details on how we can help protect your business, visit actionablesec.com.